Dawn Montefusco, and this is Write Because It Matters. And today I have Morgana Rae, who's been a personal hero for mine for about 7 or 8 years, and I'm so excited to have her. Morgana Rae is an internationally acclaimed life coach, speaker, and author of the international #1 bestseller, Financial Alchemy, 12 Months of Magic and Manifestation. Widely regarded to be the world's top relationship with money coach, she's been featured on ABC TV, PBS, NPR, Fox News Radio, United Press International, and the Wall Street Journal online, and is frequently a featured expert on programs with Deepak Chopra, Marianne Williamson, John Gray, John Assaraf, and T. Harv Eker. Wow. Named one of 2012's top women in e-commerce by We Magazine, Morgana has guided thousands of entrepreneurs, artists, healers, and humanitarians to thrive in their purpose, attract more than they chase, and make things happen with ease, flow, and synchronicity. I just love reading that. Hi, Morgana.
Hi.
So let's jump in. Tell us about your business and how you found your money, honey.
Well, to me, it's like the great cosmic joke that I am now considered to be the world's leading relationship with money coach. I mean, ask Google, ask Siri. It's hysterical because how I got here was by having like superhuman powers of financial failure, of wanting to hire me, having a roster of movie star and producer clients getting huge results and making lots of money, and people wanting to hire me, and somehow managing to not make any money. It was really impressive and heartbreaking and terrifying and really dark night of the soul. And I'm a good student. I was hit by a car, I was in a coma, I had a head injury, and I still graduated as a National Merit Scholar because I'm a good student. And so I just soared through every coaching class, and I took all the marketing classes. I even took a class on overcoming sales objections, thinking that would be the answer, where they teach you what to say when somebody says, I can't afford it, or I don't have time, or blah, 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 right? And I was such a good student that seven times in a row, I overcame people's objections. They said they would hire me. They didn't show up. They didn't pay me. And that was when I lost it. Just lost all my hope. It was so painful and frightening and just outrageous, and I really thought of not living.
Wow.
And it's very serious. I was, in my bedroom just dragging the drapes closed in that dark crypt, getting on the bed and just screaming my heart out.
Wow.
It was so painful. I was out of ideas, out of hope. And out of this despair grew something that I didn't see anywhere else because I had the vision boards and the affirmations and the millionaire mindset and all of it. And, I'm law of attraction school dropout. It didn't work for me. But something else did, and it was really weird. Picture this, living in Los Angeles. We are now rated the most unaffordable city in America. Yay, we're #1. I'm making $100 a month. This was way back at the end of 2002, beginning of 2003. And I'm still flying to Northern California for some kind of coach training every weekend, working on my 6th certification. I already have all these testimonials, website, tagline, and I'm making no money, but I still have a coach. Thank God. Because my coach, who couldn't figure out what was wrong for months and months and months, because I would do everything I was told and I would do it well, and I would fail anyway. And he said, Morgana, what happened with you growing up with money? And I thought of stuff that I hadn't thought of in decades. Never, ever knew that it affected me.
Mm.
I had compartmentalized some big betrayals that happened around when I was 12 years old, and I just compartmentalized them because they were grown-ups, I was the kid, and I chose love. Whenever I have a choice between money and love, I choose love. I still do.
Yeah.
That's the way to get both. So then he asked me, and here's the weird question that changed my life. He said, if your money was a person, who would your money be?
Wow.
Yeah. And I saw my money person in that moment. That money was this big, scary, dirty, violent biker who terrified me, and he had, the sideburns and the tattoos, and he was big, and he was mean. And this was my money.
Oh my gosh.
Like, if I were at a live event, I would have my eye on him the whole time to create distance. And in that moment, for the first time in my whole life, my financial situation made perfect sense. It didn't matter what I was doing consciously. Didn't matter how well I did it. Didn't matter how much I did it. Deep down, below the surface, completely invisible to me until that moment, didn't know, I was keeping money away from me as if my life depended on it.
Yes.
And there was nothing I could do to overcome that if that guy was my money. So I knew I had to change it. So, I've got tons of friends who talk about relationship with money. Some of them, named by you. And, they talk about money as energy. Great. Money as a tool. Yeah. Money is a measure of value. Totally. I don't know how to have a relationship with a measure of value. Look at a person, and it's real.
Right.
So I got rid of the biker, which created a new problem. That's what I love about life. Every solution, every breakthrough for me is like, yay, oh heck.
Yeah.
Stronger language. Yeah, I just got rid of my money. What do I do now? I just got invited to speak on TV. Yay, heck. It's always like that. So I had a new problem. Well, I couldn't have that relationship with money, and I didn't want him to come back, so I needed a new one, and I needed it really fast. So, who could I want in my life so much that I'd be willing to have this person in my life, even if it was money?
Right.
Do you get where I'm going with this?
Yes.
So the relationship and the person have to come first, and the cash will follow. Yes. Make money by putting love first is the only way it works. And I'm talking work. Oh my gosh, Carolyn Conniff made $86,000 in 12 hours. Elliot Malik topped that, $87,000. And, and it's, I get bigger and bigger numbers. And, and there's this sweet spot around 24, 48 hours where weird stuff happens. Usually in the $10,000 range, but not limited to that.
24 to 48 hours of when they discover their money, honey?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
It doesn't have to happen like that. And with, client Anne, it didn't happen like that. It actually happened when she swapped her first money honey for her next money honey, who was a Frenchman. Yes. He just showed up French, and she'd already started clearing out the boxes in her garage, which is what her first money honey wanted her to do. And then she outgrew that one, and the new one, Francois, I think his name was. Why not? He's
great.
French.
Totally.
That was when things really, she just was able to go deeper and sexier, and that was when things really kind of blew up in a great way, where she was able to take the whole year off of work.
Wow.
It was the first time in her life that she and her husband's bills were always paid. They just paid off all their debt, and it gave her a year to figure out what the heck she wanted to do with her life.
That's fantastic.
So it does, it's really, even though the instant results are tons of fun, very common, great for marketing, that's not really the game. It's really a lifetime relationship. How do you have a love affair for life. No matter what happens, come back to the love. When I see my dollars dip, which is very interesting because like a bad month now is better than a good year used to be. But when I see the dollars dip, it's like money out of love is getting my attention. It's like, oh, you've gotten complacent, or it's time for you to grow, or it's time for you to get the next lesson. Over here, you know? So, okay, I got rid of the biker. Now I ask myself, well, who would I want in my life so much? And spontaneously, ready-made, just whoa, there you are, as if he had been there for years. This tall, dark, handsome, romantic, clean-cut, sweet young man in a tuxedo, carrying a bouquet of red flowers, loved me, which was weird. That feeling of being loved by money, I never thought that way or felt that way before. And I also felt how much power I had in the relationship and how much I had been hurting him by pushing him away all those years. Every time he would try to give me a gift, saying, hey, here's a client, I would be all weird, ooh, and the way that would show up is somebody would say, well, what do you charge? And I would get, my throat would constrict, my guilt would go up to here. I would start thinking weird things like, well, Jesus didn't charge. Really? How do we know that? Yeah. And I'm Jewish. So I'm thinking that, He actually had a lot of wealthy benefactors, but, that's another, it's a friend of mine, a girlfriend in England last year, took a class in ancient Aramaic to study that passage in the Bible. You know the one I'm talking about. The root of money is love of money is the root of all evil. This is like a huge thing for me because love is not evil. Love is never evil. Love does not harm. Love does not hurt. Love does not cheat or steal. Love is not scarce. Love does not exploit.
Wow.
Love is not afraid. So there's that. None of that stuff is love. Love is expansive. Love is noble. Love is generous. Love is kind. Love is happy. Love lifts all. That's all love is.
That's awesome.
So that's my soapbox seat. And then we add to that Lisa actually studied the ancient Aramaic that the Bible was actually written in. It's written in Greek. The Greeks got it wrong. They got a lot of stuff wrong. They got a lot of stuff right. They got a lot of stuff wrong. In ancient Aramaic, that quote, after a whole long, tedious thing about slavery, and how to treat your slaves, is, oh, by the way, worshipping money is going to cause you some trouble. And the context was feed your slaves. Don't be stingy. It's
interesting. Yeah, totally taken out of context.
Yeah, and totally. Worshipping money is going to cause you some trouble in your life, so don't. Keep it in its place, but love.
Right.
Different.
Right. That's intense.
We're loving this person, and I call this new person money because money is an area of life that needs my love and my healing. For my happiness, because I've had such a bad, mutually abusive, misunderstanding, fearful relationship with money. So it's an area of life that really needs all of our love and healing because there's so much abuse going on in the world. Because money is this manufactured idea and very extremely useful. Much more useful than having to lug around 30 cows every time I want to
or yams.
Right. By the way, one of my weddings to my husband, we're getting married 100 times in 100 countries. Oh, that's awesome. 16 down so far in 12 countries in under 2 years, yay. And one of them was in San Marino, where they threw us this medieval, all-day wedding, in medieval vulgar Latin costumes with the music and the dancing and the 1,000-year-old castle. Oh,
wow!
And part of it was we have on our wallet home a marriage document that gives him ownership of me.
Oh, wow!
Speaking, the reason I thought of that, complete non sequitur, I apologize, is he joked that that he got 6 goats for that.
Oh.
That's my dowry.
But that goes to show you what that money is another construct of energy. I mean, really, and it used to be live cattle or live animals.
Yeah, it was just the whole idea of personal property. I'm not against. Love my house, love my stuff, and money. Money is invented. However, I digress. I go off on these stories, then I come back to what the point was.
Great.
The thing about money, this is why I focus on money. I've been a life and business coach for 20 years now. Money is like the smallest thing that I'm interested in. I'm really interested in love, lifestyle, legacy. That's my thing. But I focus on money because money got 20 years behind me to support this. Money is the number one excuse for everything that you can't have, do, or be. And it affects everything in life. Marriage, family, what you do with your time, where you live, and your right to exist. That we have to pay for medical care makes no sense to me. Yeah, doctors should be paid, but it should be built into the system. It's like we have to have money to live. Creates a lot of fear.
Agreed.
And a lot of animosity. So money represents 3 things: love, worth, and safety.
Yeah.
It's our right to exist. We feel loved or not loved by being given money because our parents, who fed us and clothed us and housed us and told us what we're worth, were our first experience and model for love and life. Bad. And then money takes that role later on. And then we're told what we're worth all the time.
Yeah. Especially back east. It's funny, the West Coast versus the East Coast. Growing up, I had to get the master's degree. I had to have the paperwork. I had to... It's really interesting. So I do appreciate being on this side of the country because even though there's money, there's also, and I think this is why I love this book, is because it's a deeper love of an energy force that we're all going to have to reckon with. I think that no matter how you cut it, everyone's going to have to reckon with their relationship to money. It's inescapable in this particular lifetime.
Well, because it is our relationship with life and our relationship with ourselves. And I have coached people struggling to make enough. That used to be the majority of my business. It is now, that's why I have the book.
I got my copy too.
Because I do much less one-to-one coaching now.
I noticed that.
What's to go on, right? But I've also coached clients with multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, 9 figures, billionaires. And the issues don't go away.
Right. With more money is more problem solving. It's more responsibility. I mean, just as a side note, I grew up as an upper class kind of wealthy kid, and then the savings bank. My father was an executive vice president of the big Greenwich Savings Bank in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. He thought, okay, everything's going to be great. The savings bank crash happened. We lost everything, and I went from being wealthy to literally being the poor kid on the block for a long time. So of course my money relationship is I'm going to lose it, but I'm working through that, over the time. However, he actually said to me, which was fascinating, he said, kid, I know things look bad from the outside and I'll get it, we'll get it back. We'll figure it out. But in some ways, I've got a lot less responsibility now. and he worked through that, but I thought, wow, there's so many different variables to money.
One of my favorite clients, still a dear friend, one of the first women to go with me on my Money Goddess retreat in Bali, came to me maybe 10 years ago because her presenting problem was love. I don't think I was even out of the prosperity closet about my work in this stuff yet. Or maybe I just stepped out. But she had tens of millions of dollars. So we didn't think that was her issue. It took me too long to figure out that was her issue because this money had come to her as if it was a wonderful gift, and it ruined all her relationships and hers. And really, especially in the areas of love. She became the bank, the target for her friends. Her boyfriend of 15 years quit his job, said he's never going to work again.
Whoa.
Then moved out, got a job, and married somebody else. And then for years, for way too many years, for such a luscious, funny, sexy, artistic, smart, gorgeous woman, too many years she was single because the money thing was scaring off men. She wasn't attracting the right kind of men. And within months, if even that long, of finally figuring, oh my gosh, she has a money monster. What took me so long? I was newer back then. We created and got rid of the monster. We created, and she met her money honey and attracted her into her life this really hot, spiritual, non-materialistic Buddhism professor. Who she's engaged to marry. And
what a great story. I love how the juxtaposition of that.
Yeah.
That's great. So obviously you've got amazing stories, and I'm assuming somebody must have said to you, Morgana, you've got to write a book.
Well, actually,
how did it happen?
Let's tell you the story of how the book happened.
Yeah, tell me how it came out.
So I'm the most spectacular manifester that I have ever met. And sometimes I manifest by whining. I call it my law of attractive whining. And back in, I think it was early 2006, I found out that a bunch of my friends had booths and speaking gigs at the Conscious Life Expo in Los Angeles. Now, I had never heard of the Conscious Life Expo, but as soon as I found out that 2 or 3 of my friends had booths and speaking gigs, I was like, oh, but I want to speak at the Conscious Life Expo. Oh. And about an hour later, I got a phone call offering me a free booth and free speaking gig at the Conscious Life Expo, where like everybody else is paying thousands of dollars. I'm like that. 6 months later, a friend of mine was being interviewed on ABC television. I was like, oh, but I want to speak on TV. And that night they had a cancellation and they called me. And
that's awesome.
I'm driving to Sacramento for like my first network TV thing.
I love
it. So whining, bring it on. And so here's the thing is I had like 3 weeks. I knew what I was going to talk about. But I didn't have any products. So I had been playing with my own self-coaching system for years. So like all this stuff.
Yes, I love that.
My own selfish, self-serving system that took me from like this goal-failing wonder to like getting everything and more every year easily. So I had just a few weeks to get together a product. So, I slapped together, my favorite articles, including an article that I wrote for a magazine about changing my relationship with money. And that was when I knew this was like my niche. Early 2005, 5, my coaching school asked me to write about innovative ways I was using coaching, so I wrote about this. And I got thousands of responses. I was like being hit by a tsunami. I had no idea. It was like being picked up by the scruff of the neck by the universe and being told, this is what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
So that became my topic. So I knew I was going to teach that. So I updated and expanded that chapter. I added some more stuff and kind of threw it together and formatted, what I've been doing for myself, went to my publisher, Office Max, and printed up
Office Max, yeah.
some of these spiral bound things. And that was in 2006, the very first incarnation of it.
Wow.
And then I actually made a ton of money just with my publisher, Office Max, for a bunch of years. And then the producer of Oprah contacted me.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I was completely unprepared.
Wow.
Because, this does not work on a large scale. Office Max and shipping them out by yourself. And especially when you get international orders and it gets held up in customs. And so it was time to publish like a grown-up. But I got some like major publishing nibbles. Mm-hmm. But I finally decided to self-publish, and those of us who don't want to call it self-publishing can call it independent publishing, whatever. Because I've been charging, the same amount for this book for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to know who my customers were, and I wanted to be able to change things. So back in 2012, I hired a friend who does book launches for personal development people, and I've been a guest expert on her other launches. And as the guest, I really loved the way she treated us. And I really loved how she did it. And it included having a telesummit, which was a dream of mine, 30 guest spots on radio interviews, at least another 30 guest blog posts, and she did all of the stuff that I'm really crappy at, which is a lot of stuff. And, admin and project management and all that, please, save my business from having me do that. And the book, this, giant, cumbersome, English only, half content and half
it's genius.
For $40. Went to #1 in 4 countries, all categories in the United States. #1 in Germany, #2 in France, #3 in Italy, even though it's only in English.
Wow.
And I made $50,000 of profits. Mm-hmm. And, after Amazon gets paid, I didn't have to mail anything.
I
If
know,
somebody
I love
returns it, I never know. And here's the weird thing is I was so wrapped up in the fun of hosting my summit, doing the interviews, doing the blog posts and all that stuff, which is just good for your business.
Yes.
With or without a book, it's good for your business. That I totally forgot that we were shooting to go to #1 on Amazon until the day of the launch. And then I was like, oh right, we're supposed to do that. Gosh, I hope it works. And I didn't realize until that day what a big frickin' deal it is to be a #1 international best-selling author.
Yeah.
I never cared about that. Mm-hmm. And now that I am, it makes a difference. Mm-hmm. It really does. Mm-hmm. And last time I led my goddess retreat in Bali was November 2014. I took last year off to, buy a house and make out with my husband and get married a bunch of times. Mm-hmm. But last time I went to Bali and I'm in the customs line, a lady from England waves and says, "Are you Morgana Rae? I have your book."
Wow.
It's Bali. So it's really neat.
Yeah.
To have a book. And for me, the reason to have a book is it is my guilt reliever. So, for example, I am coaching my private clients for $50,000 a year. Mm-hmm. And they are making way more than that. Mm-hmm. because I choose people who will benefit from my work.
Right, yeah.
And the most recent woman to hire me actually was buying this book for 2 years before I ever heard from her. And she had made $225,000 within a month doing this exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw that in her coaching application, I was like, great, we all know my stuff works on her. But what it means is that I don't have to be present. I actually don't even have to be alive.
Yes.
For people to benefit. And that means so much to me. You know? In a really, really deep place.
Yes. I remember when I first got it, I remember thinking, well, I can't afford some of your other services, so I wanted to get the book. And then I mentioned, it's funny about your money, honey, because I think I made like an extra $3,000 or $4,000 within the first week of reading the beginning part, and then I plateaued again. But I also put the book down again, and as I mentioned, I didn't pick a money honey that was in for the long haul. And that was a reflection of some of my past, after my divorce, my relationships were, the joke was I was a 3-month wonder. And so was my money honey about. And then now I'm in a great relationship. I understand long term again. I have faith. And when I picked the book up again, it was like a blast. And I saw a totally different money honey. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is the long-term relationship I've been looking for. And I'm so excited because I already feel and see shifts even in a week. And that one thing about it is I've learned is that money comes from the inside out. So you can almost start to detect the opening and the expansion in your body. And what I love is, specifically, I want to tell people about one of the examples is this sentence. I feel like I'm cheating on him, the money honey, when I cut my rates. And I started to realize if I wasn't honoring and discussed everything with my money honey, all of a sudden I gave myself permission to live a bigger life, to feel more calm, at peace. And sometimes my money honey says, get out of the house. What are you doing? You're blocking your energy, But earlier we were talking about this idea of a second money or the blossoming of the new money honey. And I think you had a story or something you want to reference.
Well, it's going to be different for every person. And I think my first money honey lasted 5 years.
Wow.
And so I didn't know we needed to do it again, except I had clients who would want to do it again and again. And I had one client, Athena, one of my favorite clients of all time, and I still check in with her and I love her. And I was mentoring about 8 coaches back in 2008, and everybody was having breakthroughs, but Athena was having breakthroughs. She started out in such dire straits that I was afraid to take her money, It's like, oh my God. But she had actually done the work on her own, and her money honey was telling her to hire me, and I was afraid that I was too expensive, and my money honey was saying, be quiet, treat her like an adult, let her make her own decisions. So I let her hire me. Within a time span of, I believe, 4 months, she went from being a single mom of 2 children. She's not a single mom anymore, but she went from being a single mom of 2 children with mountains of debt and the mortgage and very little money coming in to making tens of thousands of dollars working part-time.
Wow.
And flying down to Miami for spiritual money moves with her money honey. And I wanted to know, so why are your results so dramatic? And she told me that she had done the process 17 times.
Oh, wow.
Which was complete news to me because I had only coached her twice through that process. I was still coaching her on general things, but she still. And it's been almost 10 years. You know, she goes on morning walks with her money honey. Then years later, she met a guy who had the same name that she had given her imaginary money honey friend, the same eyes, and they got married. And they've been married for, I think, 5 or 6 years, I'm not sure. And her little kids are bigger now. And I called her last year because I wanted to find some coaches that I had trained to start doing some coaching for me. And so we caught up, and she told me the greatest story, where she will have a fight with her human honey, her husband, and then she'll go on a walk and, you know, just go on a rant to her money honey about, he said this, he did that, and her human honey, and she keeps hoping this time, her money honey will say, you're right, he's wrong. and that never happens. Instead he says, look, your husband is the closest you will ever find to a human version of me.
Oh, wow.
And he has to be imperfect, otherwise you would have no reason to talk to him. Oh, I love that.
That's awesome. And she had 17 money honeys until she got to the one that she...
Oh, they're all good. I mean, they're all great. It just, here's the thing. You don't have to do it that often. You really don't. Mm-hmm. I do it like once every few years when I'm just like, okay, it's time. But I had a client years and years ago who, she would have me do it with her every month.
Wow.
And the first month, she made $20,000. And then the next month, she met a great guy, which was like the other area of life that she really, really wanted help on. And then she wanted a new money honey again. And it's like, huh? And she says, well, because I want to keep it fresh. So for her, it was sort of like, and for Athena, and really for me too, it's more like spiritual hygiene.
Yes, yes.
It's like, ooh, you know, I'm watching what's going on in Europe. I'm watching what's going on in politics at home. I just saw all those heartbreaking memes on Facebook about animals that need to be adopted. And the world is feeling scary and mean. And I'm going to turn that into a new money monster.
Oh, right.
It attaches to me, those feelings, and I start to contract. It affects the way I feel about life, and I need to transmute that into something better. And then when I get rid of the monster, then I've got this money honey who's like, you're right, that stuff sucks, and you and I are going to team up. We reject that, and we are going to change the world.
Yes. That's awesome. So for writing the book, this sounds so much fun. You must have had such a blast writing it. I mean, everyone wants to know people's process in writing. And did you write in the morning, at night? What was your fun process to creating it? Because you did it rather quickly. You had 3 weeks.
I did that one, but then I updated it for 6 years. Maybe even 7. The only painful part was the formatting. The book formatting is just, and everybody I've ever talked to, and especially mine since it's so graphic. And I've received a lot of feedback on Amazon that people want it in like a pocket-sized form.
Oh, wow.
Thinking, you know, I probably should go back to my designer and find out how we would do that and maybe have another book launch. Mostly because the book launch process was the most fun I've ever had in my business, and I would do it every year if I didn't have to write a new book.
Tell us about the book launch process a little bit.
Well, I think I did.
So it was
I hired somebody who, Lynn Seraphin. I don't know if she's doing it anymore, but I loved her. And it was all about radio interviews and
Oh, that's right, yeah.
I love to talk. Hosting a telesummit, which I just gathered my favorite thinkers, close friends. I had this fantasy of having a summit on money, love, and magic. So I had a summit on that. And now I have a podcast, Morgana Radio on iTunes on money, love, and magic, because it was so much fun.
It's great, yeah.
And the guest blog posts, and how I did that was I needed to come up with 45 articles, 15 influencers with, really prominent blogs submitted 3 questions each. And what I did was I just set up my computer like this, and read the question and answered it into the computer, then hired somebody to transcribe it, and then I cleaned it up. So I ended up with 45 videos and 45 articles to submit for the blog tour and to repurpose later.
Awesome.
My process is not anything you would teach. I'm totally not disciplined. That's the word I was looking for. I couldn't even remember the word. I just write every time I have a strong opinion.
Good answer, actually.
You know,
yes.
I also collected thousands of questions from people who would visit my website. What's your number one burning question about becoming a money magnet? And I would read their questions, and then somebody would write something that I would have like a really strong opinion about it, and I would, write an article about it. And then I started looking at what shows up over and over and over again. What do people really need to know? Where do people go wrong? And what do they need to know? As I do this process more and more, and I coach thousands of people, and I understand the process more, the material evolves, and then I have to change what I wrote and update it. And so, it just evolved over time, and then one day I knew it was time. Like, I had talked to Lynn in years before about having a book launch, but I didn't have a reason for it. And then, I remember my reason for it. I signed with a hugely prominent book agent who represents Eckhart Tolle and a bunch of people like that, and I didn't want to write a book proposal. So I thought, well, if I have a book launch and go to number one, nobody will think badly about me for procrastinating. And that's why I had a book launch. So that's that's my advice on how to run, like, your business.
Yes, no, actually, I met with a bunch of agents in the Willamette Writers Conference, which happens out here in Portland, and they specifically say, if you've got a platform already, if you can show sales or that you've accomplished it already, they'll grab you. That you don't have to have the book proposal, and it sounds like you are just a master at you're great. I love it how you're like, well, I didn't want to do this, so I did this instead, which is actually a kind of cool way to look at things, because
nobody would think badly of me, right?
Yes. which we don't hear sometimes. We don't hear the what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? We're coaches, but sometimes for some people, what they don't want is actually a great motivator.
Yeah, well, and I've wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars on coaches.
Yes.
Which is a horrible thing to say, because I'm a coach and I believe in coaching. I've also gotten some really great coaches, and I wouldn't have made millions of dollars had I not been working with coaches. As I said in the beginning, everything I do is because I just had a great coach at the right moment, right?
Yes.
I've also wasted a lot of money because I didn't know what to do next, and somebody said, I'll tell you what to do next, and they were not skillful or experienced or just really didn't deliver on their promises. And that becomes a challenge as you become more and more experienced. The other gurus are kind of, very good salespeople, but maybe 10 years behind.
Right, yeah.
And so this is a very long-winded, roundabout way of saying that a lot of people have opinions on what you should be doing. And it's really useful, very useful, to know what they're doing so that you have choices. But I've never had any success doing what somebody else told me to do, and doing it when they told me to do. Because you have your own path. And so it's really good to know what is possible. But at the end of the day, you really have to go with your gut.
I was going to say, you talk about that in the book, and I love that. You really do teach. The Money Honey is almost a way for you to personify learning that that trust.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, he's very useful to me. Mm-hmm. My money honey happens to be a guy, right? Mm-hmm. Because my head can argue, I am the daughter of an attorney.
Oh gosh.
I can argue anything and believe it. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes I have to get out of my head.
Yes.
And hear what my money honey has to say, because he doesn't have all my bullshit going on.
Right. Someone called it bullshit fairy. Oh, shit fairies. Someone have the shit fairies involved you. Anyway, thank you. This was amazing. And again, I love your book. I think everyone should have it as reading material before they get in college.
And by the way, when you get the book, not even
right.
When you get my book, the way to do it is go to MorganaRae.com, click on #1 on Amazon. This is the secret. Because if you click on one of the Amazon links there, then come back to my page there and type in your receipt number and your email, and then you will get a 2-hour Q&A call as a free bonus, which goes so much deeper than I could even get into on the paper.
No, it's fantastic.
Yeah, so that's the way to do it. By the way, do that with your own book, because if you're going to have Amazon, do all the hassle of printing and shipping and blah, 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 which you totally want, because it saves you so much money and time with accounting and taxes and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But you want to get your people's information.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So give them a bribe, copy me. Don't copy my text or my book, but copy the idea of what I'm doing. And get people to come back and give you their info so that you can build a relationship and serve them more. Because that's the whole point of having a book.
Yes. Yes. Oh, you're awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and your time and what you're doing in the world. And this has been fantastic.
My pleasure.
Okay. Have a wonderful, what are you up to? How many? 84 more weddings?
Yeah, 16 down, 84 to go. Yeah, Zulu weddings in Africa. Oh, I'm so excited.
Oh, that's going to be great. Are you going to compile a coffee table book of all the
Everybody
pictures?
says we should. And I'm married an author too, between the two of us, probably.
That'll be great.
Now we have a lot of video footage. My husband also used to be my super gorgeous, hunky, brilliant man. Not that I'm biased. Also used to be an editor for Miramax, so he cut together a 3-minute trailer of our first 11 weddings.
Oh, that's great. All right. Well, I'm going to sign off. I don't want to keep you any longer, and we'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.